Basically, bastard doors, you want to move out of that specific doorway first and clear it before you start to press any other additional directions. The reason being is because Link's walking animation will be significantly slower. Just say if you hold like a diagonal down left out of a bastard door, he's going to start that slower movement within the doorway first before you're actually able to clear it. So it's much better to clear those specific doors than do your directional input to where you want to go. Another door movement is unlocking certain doors, and what you want to do for those specific doors is unlock them at a diagonal input until the door officially unlocks, and then you want to snap in them with clean cardinal movements. If you end up holding the diagonal input too long while you're unlocking a door, you're going to significantly slow down Link's movement by dragging across the door frame. I do show a comparison here. The left one is going to be snapping into a doorway versus the right one, which is going to be holding that diagonal input all the way through the door and then slowing Link's movement down while he drags across the door frame. While dragging across the door frame, that usually slows Link's movement down from about 1.5 pixels per frame to 1 pixel per frame. So this should always be avoided with those clean cardinal inputs. There are some exceptions to a few north-facing doors where the door frame will not slow Link's movement down if you hold diagonal through the door transition. I do show one here in Swamp. There is another one that is in Thieves Town. Just knowing those specific doors can actually give you an advantage to saving frames on those. Canceling stair leg. When you exit any spiral staircase, the first movement must be left or right before you go into any other directional input. The first movement needs to be 2 pixels to avoid stair legs, so 1 frame if moving left or 2 frames if moving right. After you cancel the stair leg, you can move at a normal speed in any direction, whether it's just continuing to hold left or right or just going into a diagonal input after you cancel the stair leg. I do show Link just coming straight out of the spiral staircase, and you can kind of see him stutter step a little bit. That is actually the stair leg that it creates if you're not holding left or right out of the door. Some other miscellaneous movement. Link moves much slower while walking or dashing in shallow water or even tall grass. Link also moves slower while carrying objects like pots or walking while his sword is held out. Dash canceling. If you hold the direction you are dashing, it does make it much easier to cancel closer dash with a quick diagonal input to avoid bonking or even grabbing an object or even grabbing the wall that you're trying to avoid bonking into. This also works well against walls and rails if you need to immediately start another dash in a different direction without compromising good movement. To add on to specific dash canceling, there are a few particular moments where you can actually cancel Link's dash by tapping the direction he's dashing. And the reason you're able to do this in a few specific spots is because you're dashing alongside the edge of a pit. Example given toward the end of Egga Tower, or the other one shown here, dashing in Skull Woods. Dash turning is actually pretty important. It's one of the more important movements that you can have Link do after getting the boots. What this really does is it helps maximize all of Link's dashes that you do. Basically, you can start your dash and then just tap the direction you want to go instead of placing Link, hitting the direction you want to go, and then starting your dash, because Link is going to move a few pixels or a tile, whatever the case may be. You're just wasting part of that movement if you should originally had been dashing anyway. Dash turning also helps to place Link on a specific spot or specific pixel you're looking to get to, whether it's a bomb jump or just trying to realign Link at a certain position can really help out. Slope dashes. If Link dashes or walks into the corner of a wall or the very beginning of a slope, you will get what we call nudging. The game sees that Link is close enough to move on further, but wants to adjust Link's position to be completely clear to the wall first. This is done by moving Link 1 pixel or frame until he has cleared the corner. So it's almost always better to walk until you have cleared the corner completely to start your dash. Key dashing. The trigger to unlock is 1 pixel away from the door itself. So by aligning Link on a multiple of 4 pixels away, you will have a successful key dash, which sounds kind of difficult, but luckily walls, torches, pots, and railings are all placed on a multiple of 4 pixels. So just aligning Link up with one of those objects, the key dash becomes easy. Like I said in the dash turning portion, most of these you have to make sure you're lined up, so you can't waste that space. So you have to dash turn in the direction of the key door while remaining Link aligned perfectly with that object. Fence dashing. The first video shown, you want to align Link with the start of the slope and dash down. The second one, what you want to do is once you transition the screen, you want to hit left and dash on the same frame. And as that dash animation is starting, you want to tap up. Bird dashing. After you flute for the bird, you are able to dash right, then either dash back left toward the bird on the second flute whistle, which is your audio cue, or you can walk left to be a little bit safer, but by doing so, you're still saving those frames. By doing this, you are scrolling the camera for a faster bird pickup. Bird dashing can save on average about 20 frames versus just calling the bird and then just standing still. Walking into the bird can save up to an average of 10 frames. Fluting. If you want to get faster flute selection times, you can actually do this by simply holding the A button. For an example, if you're just fluting to one, you can just continue to hold A as the bird picks you up, and that will confirm it on the first frame. If you want to make your way to the bottom toward number 8 and then to the left, you can either hit left up, and then alternate, or simply just spam the left directional. If you want to make your way down from the top, you can hit right down and alternate, or you can just spam the right button. You can do all of this while you have the A button held, which will be much faster when selecting places to fly to. Stair dashing. In a few cases during the run, you are able to dash off of manual stairs when there are only a few stairs left to walk for quicker movement. You are also able to dash upward from the stairs. Open door dashing. The first one shown, moving left a pixel or even 2 pixels, I believe, is still safe, will allow you to dash right through the door and avoid bonking. The second one, after moving the last block, continue to hold angle down left until you clear the block, then immediately hold A and then let go of the directional buttons. You should be able to dash cleanly through that last door and avoid the bonk. New stair movement. This tech, you are actually able to save frames by quickly hitting left or right at the top of a manual staircase or the bottom of a manual staircase. You can also quickly hit the dash button on smaller manual staircases toward the top to get a faster boost upward. Quick hopping and side hopping. After getting the boots, you can quick hop any ledge that does not face north by holding the direction you want to hop off the ledge with, along with a quick A input. For north-facing ledges, you can side hop by walking to an edge, then quickly turning left or right, and transitioning to an angle input along with an A press. Ice physics. For speeding up Link's movement on the ice, you will need momentum boosts. You can get these by using dash inputs, sword slashes, or an item like the hammer or fire rod after you've moved on the ice, and then switching to a diagonal input after using an item. Swimming. You don't want to start mashing buttons to swim until the splash animation has completed. You'll get an extra boost as you swim once that splash animation is gone, but if you try to start mashing your buttons before the splash animation is gone, it's going to slow Link down. While you are swimming though, you want to make sure that you mash both the A and B buttons. As you gain swimming momentum, you need to anticipate switching directions a little bit earlier because the momentum will carry you, especially if you're trying to swim diagonally. Pot sliding and throwing. Holding an angle input while you pick up a pot will slide Link in that direction. So when Link picks up a pot, he actually gets sweat that comes from his head. That is your cue to get ready to throw the pot once that sweat disappears from Link's head. Chest sliding and turning. Holding an angle input while you open a chest will slide Link in that direction. Turning on the same frame as opening a chest will change Link's movement to face that direction. Statue movement. When starting to push a statue, you are able to push it with Link's shoulder, even though you may be facing a different direction. Once you are facing the statue, you want to wiggle back and forth as you are pushing it to speed up the movement. Now, one thing to note about wiggling back and forth as you're pushing a statue You want to make sure that you have diagonal inputs. That's what's really going to speed Link's movement up when he's pushing it. So don't just hold up and then hit left, right, left, right. You want to always make sure that you have those diagonal inputs while you're pushing. Also, along with that, if you tend to run into something like, just say the right side of a wall or whatever the case may be while you're pushing that statue, even if you are moving in like an angle up direction and you hit the side of a wall, that's going to reset Link's moving animation to be slower because it's only going to accept the up input, for instance. So just making sure that you're being aware of what's surrounding you or the statue as you're pushing it. Also, pulling a statue is considerably slower. Sword buffering. You are able to sword buffer to adjust Link's movement. Sword slashing one frame after pressing a direction will move Link a specific amount of pixels depending on which direction you're moving him. So if you sword buffer up or left, you move 2 pixels. Down or right, you'll only move 1 pixel. But if you are sword buffering with a diagonal input, you can actually minimize that to 1 pixel of movement. Sword buffers or sword slashes can also be used for timing specific screens. Walking on edges with pots. Carrying an object will slow Link's movement down once again, but if you carry a pot on the edge of a pit or touch a crystal switch, you will speed up Link's movement back to normal walking speed. Iframes, or invulnerability frames. By purposely taking damage, you can take advantage of Link's invulnerability frames to avoid other sources of damage. Link's iframes last for about 60 frames or 1 full second after taking that damage. Hook iframes. You can also use the same concept of invulnerability while Link is in his hooking animation. Using that hook shot, Link can avoid damage during the entire hook animation out and then back toward him. In the Japanese 1.0 version of this game, Link can actually take additional damage while falling down a pit. I do show a few examples here of Link taking additional damage by a fireball while falling. He can also take an additional hit by a laser in T-Rock as he's falling. As you see, I get hit twice. And then Link can actually get grabbed by a wall master as he's falling down a pit as well. Enemy prize packs. Every enemy sprite is a part of a group. Each group has their own prize pack, meaning an ordered list of what they will drop when you kill them. The first time an enemy in a specific group drops an item, you will always get the first item in that prize pack. And the next time you kill an enemy, you can get the second item. This is a 50-50 drop rate. Each group has its own counter, so advancing one prize pack does not affect the prize pack of other enemies. Also, an enemy that is designated to drop a key will never drop an item from a prize pack, even after the key is obtained. So I do show quite a few examples here of when these enemy prize packs can come into play that are very important. The first one being if you want to decide to do the slash strategy in Gifted with Greenies, if you know you are on the red rupee drop of that specific prize pack. The next one is conserving the fairy prize pack while you are in Aga Tower. These are the fairy guards, and part of their drops is a heart and a fairy. And so at this particular point in the run, we actually want to conserve the fairy and not advance the prize pack. So what you can do is you can actually dash through these enemies to kill them. And when you dash through an enemy and kill them, the prize pack does not advance and the enemy drops no item. From the miscellaneous prize pack, obviously the arrow item is a pretty important item to get, especially if you're low in that particular situation. That's why it's always a good idea to know how to dash through the bird after getting the Master Sword, because if you are on the specific drop of the arrows, dashing through the bird, he will not drop it. So if you kill the bird the way that you're supposed to, you may not be able to grab the arrows if that is the particular drop. Another important prize pack is the bomb prize pack, where a particular set of enemies will always drop bombs for you. One particular enemy in Misery Mire will drop a bomb, which is the slug. And if you need a bomb at that point, especially if he gives you bad RNG like shown in the clip, you can just swipe him with your sword and be able to get that bomb on that drop. There are specific actions that you can do to get certain drops. For an example, if you need magic, you can freeze an enemy and then kill him with the hammer. Not all enemies will drop magic in this particular action, but most of them will. Another good thing to remember is if you are short a few rupees, you can actually stun an enemy, and after killing them, they will drop a green rupee. Leg reduction. You can reduce the amount of leg frames in a room by killing enemies or after killing a boss. You can grab a wall during the animation that the boss is dying to despawn Link's shield and reduce additional lag. Dashing through tall grass or bushes can leave items or fairies, which will cause additional lag. Try to avoid dashing into mosaic screens as well. Like an example, into the Lost Woods, where you grab the Master Sword, or into Zora's Domain. You can also reduce lag by holding a wall when a specific action is taking place. Example here, when you are filling the water in Swamp Palace. The grid. The rooms are generally arranged on a grid where the pixel distance between all objects, walls, chests, torches, railings, pots, etc., is on a multiple of 4. Conveniently, while dashing, Link moves at 4 pixels per frame, so this means if you stay on the grid during your dashes, you will be perfectly aligned with many objects, walls, stairs, or more importantly, doors, if you stop on the correct frame. Staying on the grid actually does help in a lot of situations to not nudge in a doorway or against a wall. Poke dash. Poking an enemy while Link's sword is held out will usually result in Link dropping a sword. However, if you hold the dash button briefly after poking an enemy, Link will retain his sword charge. Poking an enemy in this manner will will also deal the same amount of damage as a slash would, instead of the normal half damage of a poke. Poke spin. If your sword is charged, you can poke an enemy, and before Link drops his sword, you can release the spin to do additional damage. Catching pendants and crystals. Catching a pendant as low as possible will allow Link to catch it faster. Catching a crystal from a boss that is defeated at the top of the screen should be caught with the shadow of the crystal covering Link's eyes. Catching a crystal from a boss that is defeated at the bottom of the screen should be caught with the shadow of the crystal covering Link's feet. The crystal catches there basically save you time. Once you collect it, the crystal is going to rise up. If you have a better catch, it will reduce the time that the crystal is in its rising animation before the text starts. Now, you can check if you had a good catch or a bad catch by lining up the bottom point of the crystal with the top point of Link's hat. The closer that bottom point of the crystal is to Link's hat, the better catch you have. So kind of an easy way that I remember it. It's a little bit goofy, but kill the boss high, catch with your eye. Kill the boss low, catch it below. Text mashing. In most cases, you want to mash text with all 4 face buttons. When mashing all face buttons, ensure you have a good rhythm and try not to overlap the inputs. In situations where you can map or use an item, avoid those buttons. Cancel final text boxes with L and R, but when the last text box ends in a choice, you cannot cancel with L and R, so you'll have to use different buttons for that. Menu buffering. Menu buffering can help with pixel alignment, avoiding a bonk, or reading enemy RNG. You always want to make sure that you take full advantage of using a menu buffer in a specific place. Try to avoid menu buffering to an item where it just really doesn't make sense or it doesn't help you in that specific situation. Quick warps. Quick warping is a way to shorten the animation on the warps between the light world and the dark world. Each quick warp saves 34 frames, which adds up to be about 12.5 seconds in an entire NMG run. The only factor on whether a warp will be quick or slow is the horizontal position of the camera. For every 8 pixels, there will be 2 consecutive pixels that you can use the quick warp. A lot of the quick warps are pretty free or easy, where all you have to do is just stand in a specific position and use the mirror. Some quick warps, there are a few different ways to enter that warp quickly, where you're on a specific pixel toward the side of it to enter, or you can just enter cleanly from the far left side or the far right side. Spin speed. After receiving the boots, it's possible to put Link into a state where he's moving at dashing speed, but able to go in any direction. Once you have Link's sword charged, you want to slide your thumb from B to A, so you hit the dash button 1 frame after release. Faster movement for tap the A button to take flippers. The glitch is performed by aligning Link exactly 1 early jumps, sword spin jumps, and bonk jumps. For early bomb jumps, you need to be 1 or 2 pixels away from the edge of the pit. For sword spin bomb jumps, what you want to do is charge your sword, then once you move to the edge of a pit, hit back. You will start to see a slipping animation, then immediately release your sword spin. This will always put Link 1 pixel away from the edge of a pit. Use items straight into the water. In the Japanese, used to push Link over a 2-tile gap by taking damage from a bomb, which will send him on the other side. There are many different techniques used to bomb jump: early jumps, sword spin jumps, and bonk jumps. For early bomb jumps, you need to be 1 or 2 pixels away from the edge of the pit. For sword spin bomb jumps, what you want to do is charge your sword, then once you move to the edge of a pit, hit back. You will start to see a slipping animation, then immediately release your sword spin. This will always put Link 1 pixel away from the edge of a pit. The bonk bomb jump will allow you to open up the distance to 6 pixels away from the edge of a pit by placing a bomb below Link and bonking at the top of a wall near the pit as the bomb starts to blink. You can also use a dash turn technique to get to the edge of the pit as well. Item dashing. Item dashing allows Link to use an item and dash at the same time. By hitting Y and A on the same frame, that will allow you to execute an item dash. A few items that are used when dashing within the No Major Glitches run will be Fire Rod, Boomerang, Hammer, Lamp. You can use Mirror, Bow, Cane, along with Hook and Quake for utilizing Super Speed. This glitch only exists in the Japanese 1.0 version of the game. Mirror Block Erasing. This glitch is used to remove movable blocks from the screen. As a block is moving, spam the Y button while mirror is equipped to erase the block. Using the mirror in this manner can only be done indoors, but not in a dungeon. This glitch can also be used as an item dash during a block erase. This glitch also only exists in the Japanese 1.0 version of the game. Sword Climbing. This technique is used on the Death Mountain climb and Ganon's Tower entrance while you have the hookshot equipped. So what you want to do is hold Link's sword out to charge, and as you hit a ladder, press Y and A on the same frame, which is the item dash. This will give you hook speed, and because your sword is held out, you climb the ladders much faster. You can also combine this technique to speed up Link with double pumping. Fire Rod and hooking through blocks. When you push a block, you can use the Fire Rod or the hook shot as the block is in motion. This will allow you to light the torches faster in the mire segment and hook to additional.
Let's say. Hell yeah, Robson. Happy New Year, Adderall. What's up? Nice to see you, by the way. The music fitted the message. It kind of did, right? Did your cigarette vending machine? It actually survived, which I'm surprised by. It did survive. That was like the first time. I mean, I haven't checked the other ones. There's like 3 of them here. I only go to one in particular because there's only one in my, like, what is it called? How do you call it in English? Like the street. It's like my street basically is like a U, right? It's like a U shape, and then there's buildings around, and that U-shaped street has like 3 vending machines. You have one at the start of that U, one on the other side of the start, and then one like at the top of the U, in the middle, basically. And one of them allows me to pay with my bank card. I always pay with my bank card. I never have like money at me, because you're dumb if you carry money with you here. You shouldn't do that. So yeah, I always pay with my bank card. And there's only one vending machine that allows me to do so. What is that? Sea of Time? Remember that. Bro, you guys don't even know. I learned so fucking much in the last year about life, about people, about just so many things, dude. Like it's fucking crazy. But if I learned one thing, dude, it's the fact that no matter how many mistakes you make in life, and for how long people try to like hold that in front of your nose, these people have no power over you. Growing from things, turning out for the better, and literally being a positive influence in the world. Who the fuck are they to fucking stop you from being somebody good? Even if you have been flawed in a way or whatever, who the fuck are they to fucking keep holding the same old shit in front of your nose? that you want to grow from, learn from, etc. Who the fuck are they to fucking do that? Like, it's just a cruel thing to do, and like it's a way of making sure to keep people in their to keep people in a bad place.
Blocks on the other side of the one of the vicinity, and then immediately release your sword for sword side. There are many different techniques used to bomb jump: early jumps, sword spin jumps, and bonk jumps. For early bomb jumps, you need to be 1 or 2 pixels away from the edge of the pit. For sword spin bomb jumps, what you want to do is charge your sword, then once you move to the edge of a pit, hit back. You will start to see a slipping animation, then immediately release your sword spin. This will always put Link 1 pixel away from the edge of a pit. The bonk bomb jump, or early bomb jumps, you need to be 1 or 2 pixels away from the edge of the pit. For sword spin bomb jumps, what you want to do is charge your sword, then once you move to the edge of a pit, hit back. You will start to see a slipping animation, then immediately Immediately release your sword spin. This will always put Link 1 pixel away from the edge of a pit. The bonk charge your sword, then once you damage from a bomb, which will send him on the other side. There are many different techniques used to bomb jump: early jumps, sword spin jumps, and bonk jumps. For early bomb jumps, you need to be 1 or 2 pixels away from the edge of the pit. For sword spin bomb jumps, what you want to do is charge your sword, then once you move to the edge of a pit, hit back. You will start to see a slipping animation, then immediately release your sword spin. This will always put Link 1 pixel away from the edge of a pit. The bonk bomb jump will allow you to open up the distance to 6 pixels away from the edge of a pit by placing a bomb below Link and bonking at the top of a wall near the pit. Always put Link 1 pixel away from the edge of a pit. The bonk bomb jump will allow you to open up the distance to 6 pixels away from the edge of a pit by placing a bomb below Link and bonking at the top of a wall near the pit as the bomb starts to blink. You can also use a dash turn technique to get to the edge of a pit as well. Item dashing. Item dashing allows Link to use an item and dash at the same time. By hitting Y and A on the same frame, by a laser in T-Rock as he's falling. As you see, I get hit twice. This tech, you are actually able to, you're still saving those frames. By doing this, you are start another dash in a different direction without compromising input until the door officially unlocks, and then you want to snap in them with clean cardinal movements. If you end up holding the diagonal input too long while you're unlocking a door, you're going to significantly slow down Link's movement by dragging across the door frame. I do show a comparison here. The left one is going to be snapping into a doorway versus the right one, which is going to be holding that diagonal input all the way through the door and then slowing Link's movement down while he drags across the door frame. While dragging across the one that is after you cancel, it's if the direction, the reason you're you want thing of a first video shown, you want to actually do this by doing this and dash down. The second one, what you want to do is once you transition the screen, you want to hit left and dash on the same frame, and as that dash animation is starting, you want to tap up. Left up, button will allow you to, I believe is still safe. Open door dashing. The first one shown, moving left a pixel or even 2 pixels, I believe is still safe, will allow you to dash right through the door and avoid bonking. The second one, after moving the last block, continue to hold angle down left until you clear the block, then immediately hold A and then let go of the directional buttons. You should be able to dash cleanly through that last door and avoid the bonk. New stair movement. This tech, you are actually able to save for a minor glitch that allows you to has been hit. You can immediately hit him again 12 pixels away. Version of the game. Sword climbing. This technique dash through blocks. The torches faster in the mire segment and hook to additional blocks on the other side of one of the final rooms in Ganon's tower. Torch lighting. You are actually able to light the torches quite far away rather than being pressed up against them. If you're lighting a torch to the left, you can light it 11 pixels away. Facing right, you can light it 12 pixels away. Facing down, you can light it 12 pixels away as well. And facing up, you can light it 7 pixels away. Double heart grab. You can hookshot or boom a heart and potentially receive 2, which is frame rule based. Dead rocks, everyone's favorite enemy. After a dead rock has been hit, you can immediately hit him again to move him further out of your way. You are able to do this with either the hookshot or Link's sword beams. Short booms. Short boom refers to a phenomenon where the boomerang travels a shorter distance than expected. This happens when the boomerang hits what is known as a search beam. Invisible sprites rapidly fired out in an arcing pattern to detect Link. These search beams are used by guards in BMOS and are most commonly hit when the boomerang is thrown directly towards a guard. Frame rules. In general, frame rules govern how often the game checks for certain conditions. One of the most common rules is that collision between Link and enemies is only checked every 4 frames. This means if you're lucky, sometimes you can dash right through an enemy without taking any damage. Frame rules can also affect enemy aggro timings, most notably with guards. An example, depending on which frame you enter the room, how quickly the ball and chain guard will aggro to you can also change. Hovering. This is a minor glitch that allows you to hover over gaps that Link would normally fall into. To do this, you must hold the A button, release it for only 1 frame, and then repress the A button on the next frame. If you release the A button for more than 1 frame, Link is gonna fall. You can hold the A button between releasing it, but if you hold it for too long, which is about 30 frames or more, Link will finish charging a dash and you will also fall. Most runners that hover change their controller grip and use the top of their nails with their pointer and middle finger with a space in between to hit the A button back and forth rapidly. One extra thing to note for hovering as well too, it doesn't require you to hit the A button back and forth extremely fast. You can actually hover just fine by having a really nice slow rhythm to it as well.
It's not about going fast, it's about staying at a steady tempo and getting all the way off and back on the button. That's what a hover looks like. I just hovered the Moldworm 2 gap.
Torch glitch. This minor glitch helps with saving time and the consumption of magic. If you light the left torch before the right torch goes out, the right one will always stay lit. You can use the lamp or fire rod to perform this glitch. Also, as soon as the left torch goes out, you can light it immediately. That's a really good visual cue to use. The time it takes for the right torch to go out after the left one does is 17 frames. So a good visual cue to perform the action is waiting for the last tile to fall, especially if you are not against the left torch to use the torch going out visual cue. Despawning sprites. Very unfortunate. You can accidentally despawn the sprites in a dungeon. The jingle glitch is a data spoofing door glitch that occurs when staircases to another floor are used on the same frame that a door opens. If you have noticed that you have despawned the sprites in a dungeon, you need to make sure that you mirror back to the entrance to fix it. The opening sequence, when you're in Link's bed, you want to hold A so you can advance the first part of the text while you're mashing the other 3 face buttons at the same time. Getting past or advancing the first part of the text there, A is the only button that will allow you to do that. After you get past the first text box there, you want to start to mash all 4 of the face buttons at the same time. And once Uncle is ready to walk out the door there, you want to start mashing as many face buttons as you can, as well as hitting all the directional buttons on the D-pad that you can. Basically, any button will allow Link to get out of bed, so just trying to hit as many buttons as you can to get first frame to get Link out of bed as quick as possible. And then just make sure that you exit the door cleanly and you don't nudge. On the next screen, make sure you have clean movement out and around toward the left here out of Link's house. What you want to do is once you start to get toward the first set of bushes there, you want to mash A and B one after another as quick as you can to allow Link to get a better chance at the first frame of picking up the bush and throwing the bush for the first 2 bushes there. Once you get through the first 2 bushes, you want to walk around Link's house cleanly. Make sure you don't nudge in the corners, that can really slow you down. And as you begin your movement upward, you want to start mashing the right directional input to pump on the right side of Link's house. Of course, pumping, you'll get a little bit quicker movement if you're going north or west. So since you're going north, you're trying to reset Link's movement just to speed up his walking animation a little bit faster. Once you get past the house, you get a few more right pumps in before you leap off the ledge. And then once you land off the ledge, you can get a few more right pumps in and another right pump once you line up with the left side of the bush there. And then what you want to do is cleanly transition the screen without nudging that top left part of the tree stump. On the next screen here, what you want to do is you either want to pump left a few times or just hold diagonal up left to get around the sign. Make sure you don't nudge it all the way until you get to the top of the tree line here, and then just have clean movement around. And as you're holding left, you want to up pump all the way up to the fence there and keep up pumping until you are clear of the fence. And once you get to the right side of the bridge area, just continue to hold up and pump right until you are at the opening of the next pathway here. At this point, just continue to hold right, and once you get to the opening between the last set of bushes here, just hold diagonal up right all the way through, and make sure that you have clean movement around the edge of the castle wall there. Once you start to move up, you want to pump left against the castle wall all the way until you get to the first indentation there on the left. Once that part ends, you want to begin pumping to the right as you're holding up. And basically where you want to get once you finish right pumping, or I should say air pumping, is you want to be lined up with the left side of that first bush there, or just be directly on the middle of that stone pathway in the grass. And once you get to that point, you can do 1 or 2 right pumps on the single bushes. And then once you get to the double set of bushes here, what you want to do is you want to double pump to speed up Link's movement even quicker. Just continue to hold up and then just rock your thumb back and forth from left to right, left to right. Or you can use your other hand in your pointer and your middle finger to double pump left and right while you are continuing to hold up. Once you get to the bush here for the secret castle entrance, you can pick up the bush and then either throw it and walk down, or you can just pick up the bush, carry it, and just walk straight forward. I don't think there's too much time difference there, but if it's a little easier, gives you a second option, you can just keep the bush in your hand and then walk right into the hole. All right, once you land down in the uncle screen here, just hold angle up left until you get past the corner of the wall and you're lined up with it to be able to go left. And once you start moving left, you want to start to down pump all the way until you reach the uncle and the text boxes start. Once the text boxes start, you want to mash all 4 of the face buttons through the text as quickly as possible. One thing with text mashing as well is you want to make sure that you're hitting all 4 of the face buttons at different times, because a lot of people tend to just kind of go back and forth with both their pointer and their middle finger on each hand. And you're doing it so fast, you're not really realizing, but you're actually only hitting 2 of the buttons on a different timing than the other 2. So that's only 2 inputs instead of 4. So make sure you have a decent rhythm and you're offsetting that rhythm with the left hand versus the right hand just to maximize being able to get through the text a lot quicker. On the uncle's last text, what you want to do is you want to hold left and then cancel the last text box with L and R. That gives you a possible pixel boost to the left as you grab the sword, but more importantly, it begins to let you know that you can cancel the last text boxes with L and R. It's a little bit better for movement, especially when you have the boots or you have an item in the menu where you can fire an arrow or drop a bomb. If you don't want to be mashing face buttons or even map or mirror by accident, so always cancel last text boxes with L and R. The next screen, of course, just continue south until you exit into the courtyard. Once you get to the courtyard, there is a few things to note here. You can either just hold down and then just do a quick left input toward the left bush there to get ready to slash it, or you can just hold angle down left because you want to avoid that grass patch on the right. Anytime Link is in grass or water, it's going to slow his movement down considerably. So just make sure you stay on the shorter grass there. You avoid the long grass patch by holding one of those 2 inputs and then slash the bush as you go down. You want to align yourself during that pathway on the left side of the tree there to get ready to go down the rest of the pathway on the left. Once you get to the second bush in, you want to slash down, and one thing to note here that can save you a little bit of time that not a lot of people know or do is after slashing that first bush, you can go directly into an angle down left input and you can slash the next bush on the upper half of that bush. So you don't need to go all the way down and then look left and then slash the bush perfectly aligned with it. You can slash it much earlier. Plus it gives Link that extra diagonal movement, which is going to be a little bit quicker. And then once you slash that bush diagonally on the top half, just continue to hold angle down left, align yourself with the last bush. Now in this situation, there's a few different RNGs to show here. First one, of course, is going to be the fast one. What you want to do if the main sword guard comes down and rushes you, once you clear that last bush that you slash, just do a quick up input. It kind of baits him a little bit, but then after you do that quick up input, continue to hold left a little bit longer, then angle up left until you are past his sword and you don't get poked. But it is important to note that that quick up input really helps you get by that guard without getting poked too often. The next RNG that you're going to see is the guard can actually get in your way by slashing the last bush. If that happens and he tends to go up, just as you slash the last bush, make sure that you hold your sword from that slash and you can poke right into him as you're holding left. And then of course, if the big sword guard rushes you, just do the same up input and be able to align yourself. It does take a little bit of practice and a little bit of RNG reaction, as do a lot of the screens in this game. But once you do it a few times and you know exactly what you're looking for and what to do, it does get easier and easier as you see the RNG appear before you. Once you get up to the castle stairs, what you want to do is you want to wiggle Link left and right as you're going upstairs. It gives you a faster movement if you wiggle rather than just going straight up the stairs, or the diagonal movement in general just speeds Link's movement up as you're going upstairs. But What you want to do here is just wiggle back and forth, gain a little bit of extra movement. But the important thing here is from that wiggle, make sure you're not offlining Link with the castle door entrance. You want to make sure that you enter right in the middle and you enter cleanly. So you're going to hear a lot of that throughout this run. You don't want to nudge. You want to enter doors cleanly, go around corners cleanly. It doesn't look like or even sound like a lot at first, especially when you're not used to doing things cleanly and even seeing other players do things cleanly. But there's a lot of doors, there's a lot of corners, a lot of things to nudge in this game. And I promise you, it all adds up if you do things cleanly. That's, in my opinion, that's like 85%, 90% of this game is just clean movement. Entering the castle entrance here, there's a few different movement patterns that you can do. You can hold up from the door and you can pump left all the way to aligning yourself with the torches here on the left side, or you can just simply hold up left until you align with the torch. Once you get aligned with the torches, you want to go through the pathway right below the top left torch there. And once you get there, you may have some different guard RNG where he can go right, he can go left from where he's standing, he can go down, he can go all the way left towards the door. It just really depends on your RNG reaction, but most cases, if he does go down or he does go left, you can go underneath him. There are a few cases where he'll go down a lot quicker, and if you try to go underneath him, he will run into you. So just be aware of that for RNG reaction. But the few RNGs I show you here, that guard goes down, I was able to go under him. What you want to do is two things to note here, especially if you have a clear pathway. As you're moving left towards the door, you can get a few up pumps in just to speed up your movement a little bit. But the important thing here is you can align yourself with the top left pillar right in front of the door there. If you align perfectly with the bottom of that pillar, you'll have a nice clean door entry. Just a quick note, you can actually double pump in and out of north and west facing doors. It does give you a little bit of extra movement. It does give you that pixel boost. But one thing to note also is if you're a beginning player or you're an intermediate player and you don't pump all the time or you only pump in certain situations, that's totally fine. Honestly, pumping saves about 6 seconds or so within an entire no major glitches run. So one key rule that I have and what I tell a lot of players as well too is if any time where you're trying to pump and it ruins your movement, don't do it. That's going to be key. But I also still encourage to learn pumping. Even if you're just practicing, throw it in all your practice, pump, look at those situations. And then when you do runs, maybe don't do it until you feel comfortable enough. But I do encourage learning some of these movement techniques as early as possible. It's not going to hurt you. This screen, what you want to do is just hold angle up left out of the doorway. You can double pump out of this doorway as well as it's a west facing door. Hold angle up left out of this doorway until you pass the first corner of the wall and you align yourself with that first indentation right above there. Once you get aligned with that, you can continue to hold up and then pump right all the way to the top, right where that indentation ends. And then of course, angle yourself up left into the top doorway there, but make sure you have clean doorway movement. One thing I would note here, if you hold angle up left out of the door and then you change your movement to up, but you notice that Link is not fully aligned all the way to the right of that wall, there's 1 pixel of space, 2 pixels, do not pump. You don't want Link to go back right and then back left again. So at that point, if you do notice that, stay straight going up, and then you can get yourself some left pumps in to align yourself right in the middle of the carpet to have a clean door entry. The long guard hallway, there's a few things to note here. Depending on what monitor or TV or CRT or whatever that you're playing on, once you enter this room, if you don't have any of your top pixels cut off from the monitor that is displaying your game, you can see the top guard, which is going to be the second guard above. You can see the bottom pixel of his shadow. And you can see if it's in the middle, you can see if it's starting to go to the right. So that way it gives you a little bit of a better advantage on whether to stay straight or, hey, I see that black pixel all the way, in the middle going left or to the left. I'm going to pump all the way to the right wall and I'm going to have a clear pathway the whole way. So that's a really nice visual cue to see. Unfortunately, I can't see it on my CRT and some other people can as well too, or depending on their monitor. But it is a nice visual cue to have if you have that availability with it. But from that, what you want to do, there's 2 different movements here. It really just depends on how comfortable you are with it. But in my experience, I like to air pump all the way to the right of the wall as I'm holding up. And then at that point, I just make my decision on RNG reaction for what I want to do. There is a few different RNGs in here that you'll see, but the other movement you can do is you can just go right into an angle upright input until you hit the wall, and then just pump right against the wall all the way to the top, and then just make your decision on what you want to do for the guard RNG reaction. The two RNGs that I'm displaying here, the first one's going to be the clear RNG, where you can pump all the way to the right of the wall and then pump all the way to the top. And then I believe the second one, the sword guard gets in your way, and then the other two guards are kind of off to the left, so it doesn't leave a lot of space. But what you can do, honestly, to save yourself time, just sword them once. Even if you have to sword them twice and kill them, you're going to save yourself more time than trying to go around the guard, which is going to bring you further away from the door. Also, if you do try to go around the left, if the sword guard is all the way to the right, you do risk yourself of the guard doing a quick turn to the left and then having him poke you, which means you lose health, and then he hits you more to the left, which is more away from the door. So practice a little bit with it and see what works for you, but those are the few things that do work. It's not really that big of a deal. Just make the better decision at the time. The statue room, what you want to do as you're moving right, pay attention to the second statue. Once you get underneath that second statue, you want to align yourself with the bottom of it, which is actually going to help you get cleaner movement going into the spiral staircase. All right, so we have the first key guard. This one, of course, has a little bit of controversy because a lot of runners do a lot of different strategies. But of course, the first one that you're going to see is going to be the optimal strat, which is the left/poke strat. It does save right around the 10 frames mark, which isn't a whole lot. Even some of your top runners do the up slash. So make sure you do what's most comfortable to you. Not a huge deal. Like I said, it's only about 10 frames if you do both of them well. But for the left slash here, what you want to do is right out of the staircase, you want to hit left and slash, and then a couple of visual cues that I use that work really well and consistent for me is after you slash, you're going to start moving to the right. And then once like Link's body gets past the head of the guard, you kind of want to start to go into a diagonal down right and get a little bit lower, because of course the guard is moving down as well. Overall, what you want is the tip of Link's sword. You want that to poke the right side of his helmet. Once you're able to poke him in the helmet, you need to move down a little bit further, but it has to be very quick, because if you wait too long, Link is going to drop his sword from the poke, and then you're going to lose your spin. So the visual cue I use for that portion is after you poke him on the right side of the helmet, I move down until Link's shadow is pretty much lined up with the top of the torch on the right wall, and then that's where I release my spin. And then of course you just grab the key and then you exit the key door and have good movement as well. The next strategy, of course, is probably the more popular one. It's safe, it's consistent. It is the up slash. The only downside of this, like I said before, you do lose about 10 frames. You have to wait and stall for the key drop before you can go through the door. Couple of visual cues for this one and a couple of strategies. So once you get out of the staircase, I like to just hold angle upright, and then once you see Link move to that direction of upright, slash your sword, hold your sword and move to the right of the guard, and then start moving down. Stay relatively close to the side of the guard, and my visual cue for this is once Link's shadow is pretty much lined up with the top of the guard's shield, that is a really good time to release the sword. You can get him a little bit closer to the door at times if you get a good spin, but where he dies, just line up where the key is going to fall, wait for the key, and then exit the door cleanly. And then of course you have your comparison right here that we're showing. It shows left slash, it shows up slash, and then it just shows your standard 3 slash to kill the guard. Shout out to Greenham on this one, but it really just shows you in real time the specific times that you're saving and losing compared to these other strats. It's always a nice reference to look at. The next room is the ledge hop. This one's pretty easy, but I see a lot of newer runners kind of do goofy movement on this. As soon as you land from the ledge hop, just take one quick step down. After that, just transition directly into an angle down left diagonal movement. And you can diagonal Link all the way to the screen transition. The next room, you want to go in between the first set of statue and pots, and then exit between the second statue and pots. Then once you get down the path a little bit, you want to align yourself with the right rail. And once you get past the rail, you want to diagonal down right movement all the way to the bottom edge of that platform, but just be careful. You don't want to leap off of it or anything like that, or fall off of it. Just align yourself as close to the bottom of that platform as you can, and then transition into a right movement as you make your way closer to the pot there. And once you get right at that corner edge of the platform, you want to cut that edge cleanly with an angle down right input. Just make sure you're not too far on the corner of that edge, because as you try to cut that edge, Link will give you like a slipping animation, which will really slow you down. So it might just take a couple tries to get it going or practice it, but you should be able to cut that edge nice and cleanly without running too much into the corner of that pot or getting the slipping animation. Once you get down to the rail, have nice clean cardinal movements from down to left. You don't want to nudge on the corners of those rails. It can waste you a lot of time. Once you get past the corner of that rail, just continue to hold left and do some up pumps against that top rail all the way to the screen transition. Once you get to the next screen here, you can continue to move left and up pump. Probably get, like 4 or 5 quick up pumps against the rest of this wall. Once you clear the wall, you can either hold angle up left until you get to the wall and then pump left against that wall all the way to the top, or you can air pump left as you're moving up here. Once you get to the top of the wall here, what I like to do is once I clear that corner before the bridge, I like to hold angle up and left until Link disappears. And then once he disappears underneath that walkway, I'll continue to hold left and I'll do like 1 or 2 quick up pumps. And then once Link emerges from that, it should put you in a good position to not alert that first guard on the left. Once he emerges from that walkway, you can keep holding left and then start to down pump to make sure that you're speeding up Link's movement and you're getting underneath that first divider there. Once you clear the first divider, just make sure you continue to have Link's movement facing upward and then pump left against that second divider. Have clean movement up and around it. And then once you get to the top wall, move left, pump all the way up against that top wall. Have a nice clean corner going upward past that, and then get yourself 3 or 4 nice pumps on the right wall, and then start to diagonal into the doorway and make sure you diagonal cleanly. And then what you want to do is you want to slash your sword. There is a visual cue for that, in my opinion. It's kind of hard to see because you're moving quickly, but the actual visual cue, the bottom of Link's shadow lines up exactly with the bottom of the brown brick there that's below the center of the doorway. As long as you slash there, it should give you enough time during the screen transition to charge up your sword. Any higher than that, if you have the good RNG in the next screen and you let go of your spin right away, it may not be fully charged. So the guard RNG here before the boom guard, he's got 4 different RNGs. He can go down, he can go left, he can go up, and he can go right. So I show all 4 RNGs here. They're all pretty easy. If the guard goes down or right, you can pretty much just take 1 quick step up and then just release your sword. You'll get him on both of those RNGs. And then the RNG where he goes up, you just have to take probably about 1.5 steps up and then angle yourself up and left and release your sword. And pretty much the same with the left guard, just move a little bit to the left and release. After you kill the guard, the screen does delay, or it gives lag. It does give you a chance to start moving diagonal up right towards the door, and then it will give you that like 1 second lag or delay, and that'll kind of help you align yourself to have a clean door entry there. The boom guard screen, there is a few things to note on this screen. What you want to do is just hold angle down right out of the doorway, and I'd say take probably like a step or maybe a tile, and you can charge your sword as you go down maybe a little bit more, and then you start to move right underneath the statue. The first thing is try not to nudge the corner of that statue as you pass it and move forward. That'll slow you down. And the visual cue here is just continue to hold your sword, and where you want to release the sword for the most part is Link has like a crease in his hat. I like to line up that crease for a visual cue with the end of the second statue there. Most times you're going to get a good spin on the guard after you poke him if you use that visual cue. There are cases where the guard is going to give you bad RNG and he's going to stay against the wall. He's not going to rush you. You can miss the spin. It doesn't happen often, but you can. If you feel like you're going to get that bad RNG, you can move a little bit more right to where the very end of Link's hat lines up with the statue, and no matter what RNG he gives you, you should be good. After you release your spin, what you want to do is hold angle up left. This will face Link up and start moving him to the left cleanly to open up the chest. Once you open up the chest, there is a text box. You may have to practice it a little bit, but the last text boxes do give you kind of an audio cue. Kind of goes like a doo-doo sort of thing. Once you start to notice that, that's kind of your cue to hit L and R to cancel that text box. And then you can hit right and Y real quick, or whatever your button is, to toss your boomerang out to grab the key. Coming out of the boom guard, hold left, and you can do like 1 or 2 up pumps to speed up his movement a little bit and to align yourself with the bottom of the staircase. Just make sure you don't nudge on the sides of them, and then just have a nice clean doorway. Once you come down the stairs in the next room, just hold angle up right. You'll slide right past the corner of the wall, and just make sure you don't nudge going into the staircase here. So this small room, there's 2 things to note. What you want to do is hold left, because that's the way you're going, but you want to up pump all the way against the wall to speed up Link's movement and to align him with the wall to give yourself a better staircase entry in the left door. But one thing to note here, I know a lot of you do know, but I'll go over it just in case. Canceling stair leg is a pretty big thing. Stair leg wrecks your movement because there's a lot of stairs in this game, but any spiral staircase is going to create stair leg for you. This is the first opportunity for a spiral staircase. It makes it easy for everybody because left is the way you need to go. So you're going to already be holding left right away. But in all spiral staircases, hold left or hold right first out of the staircase, then do your movement. All right, ball and chain, everyone's favorite final boss of this game. So I do show all the RNGs here for ball and chain, and I do have a comparison video to show as well. Once again, thanks to Greenham. But a couple of things to note on here, and I will talk about a few things maybe that not everybody does, but I'm going to let you guys know what really works for me and what really makes this a lot more consistent. So of course, coming out of a spiral staircase, you want to hold right to cancel stair leg, and then once you see Link's body animation or movement go to the right, then you can go directly into an angled down right input and slide against the wall there. So depending on what the guard RNG is, the first one I show you here, the guard goes up. You want to boom that guard and have clean movement around the wall there to the right. What really works most for me is I like to stay aligned with the top of this wall. If I tend to be a little bit lower than this wall and then I start to move toward ball and chain, more times than not, he tends to aggro a little bit earlier and then starts to throw his ball and chain before I can position myself, and then I usually get hit. This doesn't work every time, of course, but staying aligned with the top of the wall really works well for me. One quick note too here before you go down to the ball and chain, and this is another thing too that a lot of players might do differently, but it really works for me, is my visual cue to diagonal down to him is once I see the front of Link's shield lined up with the left wall there of the last prison cell, that is my cue to start moving diagonal down right and then position myself right under the ball and chain. More times than not, I get good RNG. He doesn't swing early. I feel like I line up ball and chain a lot cleaner that way as well. In a case where you start to move diagonal to ball and chain and you see him stop and start to swing his ball and chain, that's an indicator for you to go diagonal down right a little bit lower than trying to align yourself right underneath him. If you do that, you'll miss getting hit, and then you can just move up and start slashing him. It's 8 quick slashes, of course, if you want to do this strategy. I see a lot of players mash the B button, especially some of the beginning players, maybe a few intermediate, but you never want to mash your sword swings against this guy. It's more of a timing thing so you don't clink. It's a rhythm. It's just something you're going to have to practice, but definitely don't mash. Have a rhythm on your nice, slow sword swings. Typically on the last sword swing or the 8th swing, what you want to do on the last one is you want to hit ball and chain on the right side so he slides more left and more towards the keyhole of the door. So the big key that falls from him is going to be a lot closer to you. Once you kill ball and chain, you want to align yourself with the middle of the door, and then you want to boom the key with an angle upright input. You can get it in a falling animation and get a little bit quicker. All the text mashing, you want to mash all 4 face buttons. Of course, it really depends on if you end up getting Zelda text first or you end up opening the chest first. Just knowing how many text boxes each one has and what buttons to press is always a good thing to note. But for the Zelda text, you want to mash all 4 buttons. And then after the choice that Zelda has you pick, there should be 2 more text boxes. On the last one, you wanted to mash L and R to get rid of it. I mash LR and A from Zelda text because I'll get through the text with 3 different buttons, and I'm already mashing A to open up the chest. Once you get the lamp, just mash L and R as you're holding angle down right to align yourself, leaving the prison door. Try not to nudge on it, have a clean corner down and left around it. Once you're starting to move left and you're aligned with the top of the wall, you want to start pumping upward all the way past all the jail cells. You don't have to worry. I know you're pumping up and you're passing some of the jail cells that are open. You won't move up in them, don't worry. Just continue to move left and pump up all the way until you get to the wall. Have nice clean movement across them, and then pump right. Probably get like 3 or 4 at least good pumps to the right, and then diagonal up left into the door cleanly. A couple other RNGs that I do have, the guard will move down. With that RNG, you typically don't have to boom him or slash him at all. You can just cleanly move all the way to the right towards ball and chain and just continue to do the same strategies all the way through. I do have an RNG where the guard goes right. A couple things to note with the guard going right for the RNG. A lot of people will boom the guard, and on the way back, you're going to have to boom the guard again. That's definitely not what you want to do for a couple different reasons. 1, it's slower, and 2, on the way back, sometimes you can get frame ruled, or it's called a short boom. You can boom the guard, and the boom doesn't do anything, and you don't boom the guard, and then you get hit by him. So those are 2 big reasons. Typically, all times when you get the guard RNG where he goes right, just slash him twice and kill him. It is faster, even though using the boomerang is less frames than slashing your sword. It's faster to kill him because the text that you get through Zelda and the rest of the text with the lamp, it's actually going to be faster. It's less leg frames without having that guard there. Now, something to note, if you do kill the guard and he drops a heart, that's going to slow down your text as well because there's an extra item or sprite on the screen still. So ultimately, what you want to have happen when he moves right is to kill the guard and have him drop nothing. But it's still faster than booming him twice or potentially getting a short boom and getting hit. The last RNG is 1 pot, of course. It's a little bit safer. It's still fast. You don't lose too many more frames, maybe around 40 frames or so if you do it right. But you can pick up a pot and hit him in the upper right corner and then just slash him 4 times. Throw your boom away at the key and then line up with the door. At the end here, of course, we have another really good comparison of 1 pot poke spin and 1 pot 4 slash, and then 8 slashes and 2 pots where you can see the time. The next screen here, what you want to do is just align yourself with the top of the wall as you move right, just to give yourself a cleaner staircase entry. And then here, it's a spiral staircase, so we want to make sure in this room we cancel stair leg before we do any other movement. So you want to hold left out of this staircase to cancel it, and then just go right into a diagonal down left input. Align yourself with the stairs here, don't nudge. This room, of course, just continue south. Back in this room here with the 2 guards, what you want to do is have nice clean movement around the first corner. And what I like to do is once I get that right input around the corner, just briefly hit angle upright. That way I know I'm perfectly aligned with the top of the wall, so I don't nudge this divider here as I pass it. You want to continue to look right as you move down and hold angle down right below the next divider. Once you clear that divider, what you can do is you can hold up and then you can air pump to the right and align yourself with the stairs. Once you get to the top of the stairs here, this is kind of some quirky movement, but what you want to do is just hold angle upright the entire way through the screen transition. And I believe the big thing for this one is Link is facing up, so he's always going to have his faster walking animation versus facing right and getting a slower walking animation. So you're moving right, but you're facing up, so it is a little bit faster for movement here. Next screen, just continue to hold angle up right until you pass the wall and you get aligned with the right rail, and then just continue to hold up and pump right against the rail all the way through the screen transition. Back on this screen, where you're going to want to jump off the ledge, I do things a little bit differently here, and I'll tell you a couple different strats here. I believe the main optimal strat, what you want to do is just hold angle up right until you get all the way to the top edge of the platform, and then you just want to hold right and hop off the ledge. I do a little bit differently. It's just a personal choice of mine. is once I get clear of that first rail, I like to just hold right and then maybe get myself a little bit higher, but then jump off the ledge, because once you land here, you want to hold up an air pump to the right to the stairs. I like to be just a little bit lower as a personal preference because it helps me either get more air pumps into the right, or maybe if my pumping isn't so great at that point, it just gives me another half a tile to try to air pump to the right to make sure I'm aligned with the stairs. And then this snapping into the doorways, you're going to hear that a lot, but what you want to do, align yourself with the top of the wall right underneath that door there, and then you want to snap into the doorway, which means just use direct cardinal movement. Straight right, straight up. You don't want to hold diagonal into a door because you're going to rub on the door frame and it's going to slow down your movement considerably. So just have nice, clean cardinal movements into the door. Back in the first key guard room, he does give you a few different RNGs. What I like to do is just hold angle up left out of the doorway. You can air pump to the left to get a few pumps in there for some extra speedy movement, but align yourself with the left side of the chest. I like to get a few right pumps in, some on the left side of the chest there. And if the guard continues to go down, you can just air pump cleanly to the right and align yourself with the stairs. If he does give you some aggro movement, you may just need to move up a little bit higher before you start going to the right to go up the staircase, just to avoid getting poked. Back in the statue room, of course, it's a spiral staircase again, so you want to hold left to cancel stair leg. Once you see Link turn and get that left movement, you want to transition right into an angled down left input, and then get right below the statues. And then what you want to do is you want to start to hold left and then pump up against the statues all the way until you are clear of the second statue. Once you clear the second statue, just continue to hold left and pump down to align yourself with the door. Back through the long guard hallway here, there are a few different RNGs you can come across. In my opinion, what you want to do is just hold angle down left through the doorway and align yourself with the right wall. Even if there is an enemy there, it's gonna be quicker than going all the way left around a guard or two and then going all the way back right, or whatever the case may be. Remember, you do have your boomerang. So hold angle down left out of the door, and then nice cardinal down movement once you clear the corner of the wall there. Stay on the right wall. If you have to use your boomerang, use your boomerang. It's not gonna waste that much time, but of course the first RNG I show you is a nice clear pathway. What you want to do is just line yourself up with the middle of the carpet and then get clean door movement. The second RNG I show is where I have to boom. The next room, just continue to hold angle down right all the way through. Just make sure that you have clean door movement when you're exiting this room. Back in the main hallway of the castle, you're going to get a text box. Just hold angle up right to start your movement and then just cancel the text box with LRA. Continue to hold angle up right all the way through here until you get to the top of the first pot. And then I go into a right movement until I pass the bottom left corner of the top pot. Once I pass that bottom left corner, it kind of gives me a cue to go back into an angle upright input so I can align myself with the bottom of that pot, which will bring me closer to the staircase and allow me to get an easier, clean staircase entry. Going into the mantle push room, talking about the stairs a little bit here. These are some short stairs, so you don't want to wiggle back and forth because you might bring Link too far to the right and then you're just gonna have to move back left anyway. But what you want to do is as soon as you hit that first stair on the throne part of the room here, just hold angle up left so you're walking up the stairs diagonally, and continue to hold angle up left all the way to the top until you get the text box. Once you get the text box, what I like to do is I hold left, because left input's going to give you clean movement past the chair, and then I mash LR and A to clear the text boxes. For the mantle part, a few things to note. I like to do cardinal movements because I feel if I try to cut that corner too early with a diagonal, I get stuck on the corner of the mantle. So just use nice cardinal left and up movements. Pushing the mantle, there are two different cues that I know of that most people use. What I like to use for a cue here when I'm done pushing is the very back of Link's hat is lined up with the inside of the left door frame. As soon as I see that, I'm good to go straight forward. Another cue that people use are the top of the door frame. The mantle is like typically halfway pushed on the top brick of that door frame. I know a lot of people use that cue as well. Finally, in the secret part of the castle here, a couple of different movements that you can do. What I like to do is out of the doorway, just hold up and start air pumping to the right. I do that until I hit the right wall. And then once I'm on the wall, I continue to hold up and pump right until I get toward the top of the wall. Also, what you can do is hold diagonal upright straight to the wall if you want to. And then once you hit the wall, you can right pump as you move up. I believe I show a few different RNGs here. The first one's a nice clean one where the rat doesn't get in your way at the top. But one quirky movement here that I see a lot of people get wrong is once you pass the corner of that wall, just continue to hold angle upright. You don't need to switch your movement right and then switch your movement up once you get to the right side of the room. Just continue to hold angle upright as you're facing up. You want to do that until you clear the pot. Once you clear the pot, you can do a few right pumps to align yourself with the doorway. The bad RNG that's shown here, basically the same thing, but the rat gets in your way as he goes down. You can boom him, you can sword him, whatever you feel more comfortable with, and then just do the same strategies to get a nice clean door entry. All right, the snakes room. So there's a ton of different RNGs with the snakes room. I didn't want to show them all because we'll be here all day. But what you want to do is, it is coming out of a spiral staircase, so you want to hold left out of here and cancel stair leg. Once you see Link's body movement to the left, you can go right into a diagonal down left input. And what you want to do, which gives you the best chance at the snakes room, align yourself with the middle pathway. I may need a little bit of practice and variation on just seeing what works as far as the pathway goes for you, but align yourself with the middle pathway. That's going to give you the best chance to get through or boom one snake. Sometimes you got to boom two snakes because the middle pathway has two and the bottom pathway is full. But I only show the good RNG here where there's no snakes, but more times than not, the middle pathway is the path you want to take. You can boom twice, which I suggest. I wouldn't suggest slashing, but after you go through the middle, or just say there's one snake in the middle that you have to boom, typically after that middle snake, the top side is going to be clear, and then just hold your angle up left to get towards the top and then align yourself with a clean door entry. This room has a few different notes that I can talk about. So this is the chest key room with a few different enemies in it. What I do is I hold up and I air pump right to the wall, and then I get in probably like 4 or 5 more pumps on the wall before I see the snake. You can immediately hold angle up right to the wall, but sometimes that can mess with your bat RNG, because if you go right to the wall, the bat gets aggroed and he can be in a few different places. That can really mess up your movement toward the top. So I avoid that. I like to have more control in this room. So I pump to the right wall, and then I pump as many times as I can before I see the first snake on the right. Once I see the snake, I boom him. And the important thing with this room is when you transition to a right movement, you want to make sure that you stay at the bottom of the wall. The reason for this is because the bat is not going to notice you. We're going to utilize that in a second here. So once we stay at the bottom of the wall and we're moving right, move underneath the bat. Once you see the chest come into play, or you get past the bat, start to do an angle upright input. And what that's going to do is you're going to pass the bat, but you're going to aggro it, and the bat's just going to fly straight down to the bottom part of the wall, which is what you want to do because he's going to be out of your way the rest of the room. So after you aggro the bat, open up the chest, you can hold left and up pump to the wall. And once you start to move up towards the door, just continue to hold up and then pump right against the wall. Once the door is in view, just use angle up left and have nice clean door movement. On the second RNG that's shown here is really bad RNG where everything gets in your way. It just really has to come down to some really fast RNG reaction, but I just wanted to kind of show you what it looks like when you get bad RNG. You can use your boom as well to either boom a snake or boom the bat, which will kill it. But that is bad RNG through that room, but it still goes according to plan if you have really quick reaction. The next room here is going to be the water room, which is very, very important. If you don't pump anywhere, I definitely advise pumping here because walking in water really slows down your movement. A couple things here, it's a north-facing door, right? So it gives you a chance to double pump out of the doorway. And the text box here, what I like to do is I hold left to get ready to move left, and then I mash L and up on the D-pad to get ready to pump. So I'm mashing a couple different buttons here, and I'm getting ready to turn Link's movement left and to start pumping upward. And actually, one thing that I have heard from a few runners is Pumping in water is a little bit different. You may just have to practice or play with it, but I actually believe pumping a little bit slower in the water does give you faster room times or does speed up your pumping movement. But like I said, it's just something you got to kind of play with on your own, you know, in the practice hack. Ultimately, what you want is just to pump all the way through this room and then have nice clean door movement. The second water room, do exactly the same. Hold left and pump up all the way till you get on the platform in front of the door and then have clean door movement through. Okay, the key rat. There's a lot of different places this key rat can be. There's a lot of different things that can happen. The rats can get in the way. You can kill 2 rats at the same time on top of each other. One drops the key, the other drops the rupee. There's a lot of different things that can happen here, but it's a north-facing door. You can double pump up through it. But what I do here is I start to move left against the wall, and I probably do like 2 or 3 down pumps just to speed up my movement to get closer to the rat. And then once I do that, I start to pump up as I'm moving left. Pumping up like probably 2 or 3 pumps just to get Link into a better position for the rat really helps out a lot. So the different RNGs that I show here, of course, the first one's the quick one. Once you kill the key rat, you want to take a step to the right as you're waiting for the key animation to fall, and then you just boom the key. The second one that I show here is just fast rat RNG, but bad RNG at the top where the rats get in the way. The next one is actually killing the rat with a rat in front of it. So you have to kind of diagonal boom down it so you don't boom the rat instead of the key. Another one is kind of more in the middle left, where you can actually just give yourself some diagonal upright movement and then go back and boom the key just to get you closer to where you need to be. On the last 2 ones that I show here is the northwest key rat, where the rat actually goes not all the way to the top left, but close enough. You can still kill it and side boom it. The last one is definitely notable because it's the slowest, and it does happen a lot. Kills a lot of really good escape times and runs, but the true northwest key rat, or the Seattle rat. But the bad part about this is the other rats. You really have to note the other rats. And in this RNG I show you, you're going to have all the rats where you don't want them to be, and the key rat's going to be in the upper right. So what I like to do in this part, because sometimes the rat can stop at the top of the wall up there, sometimes it can turn and go back down at you and then just hit you before you're able to slash it, is once I get to that corner, I just hold my sword out and I'm going to poke the rat to kill it. Once you get the key to drop, you got to kind of pay attention to what the other rats are doing, because if the other rats are going to go up and around that part up there, and then you try to side boom the key, you're just going to end up hitting the rat. So you got to kind of figure out where the other rats are going to be at the moment when you're going to boom. But there is a really cool visual cue for this, and it's actually, I believe it's the second brick line on the bottom side of this wall. If you line up straight with it, you can angle up left, boom the key, even if the key is in the top right. It kind of, your boomerang kind of goes through the wall, and as you boom to the side there and you start to walk right, your boomerang is going to get more of that upper right space up there, which is going to grab the key and then bring it back to you. Then of course just exit cleanly, don't get hit by the bat. The long rat hallway. This one has a ton of different things that can happen. The first one I show you is nice clean movement, which you officially want to do if you don't have any rats that get in your way on the left wall or rats that get in the way below you. Just hold up and then air pump to the left and then pump all the way left against this wall. You're gonna have a really great room if you do that. A couple other RNGs that you see here is a rat that goes immediately to the left wall. You can choose to go to the left wall and boom it, or you can choose to stay straight and then just boom the bat. That left rat might stop. I believe it's exactly what I do in the next RNG, is I stay straight because there's already a rat on the left wall. So I'm going to wait to see if that rat stops. That way I can get to the left part of the wall, I can get some pumps in, and if you are aligned with that left part of the wall, those bats are not going to hit you. So you can just walk right by them. Another RNG here is if you get fast rat RNG on the bottom and they go in front of you, you can just hold angle up left the whole way, and then you kind of go into that indentation on the left there where the bomb wall is, and you can actually sidestep the rats and then align yourself back up with the left wall and pump or boom a rat in front of you, whatever the case may be, but you can avoid that. The next rat room, which is the second to the last room in Escape here, and there's a lot of things to note, but one really good visual cue for me is, of course, it's a spiral staircase, so you want to hold left out of it to cancel stair leg, but you want to note how far left you're going, because there's a few different rat RNGs with that rat that's in front of the door. He can either go straight to the right, which is going to be right in front of you if you turn left, or he's going to go right, which is going to be right below you. So if you hold left on the staircase and you immediately go into a diagonal and that rat goes right underneath you, you're going to run right into him. So I did show a couple RNGs here on what to do in that situation, but the main thing here is the visual cue. What you want to do is hold left out of the staircase to cancel stair leg, and as soon as Link is past the left part of the door frame, you should be safe to immediately go into an angled down left input. That will not get you hit if the rat goes on the high side towards you, and that will give you time to go left and then into an angle movement to not get hit if the rat goes below you. Like I said, which you'll see in a few different RNGs that I have here. One safe method to this is holding left out of the staircase to cancel stair leg, and then you just go immediately into a slash. You can slash the rat, and of course if he goes beneath you, you don't have to worry about it because you slash. If he goes right in front of you, you're just going to kill him. Or you do it so fast that you don't even hit him. And of course, as you go out of the door, rats can get in your way. Depending on how far left the rats are, you can just hold diagonal down left and boom the rats as you go through the door. Or if the rats are going to get in your way, but they're a little bit too far to the right, you may be able to still boom, but I always feel more comfortable with a slash and then going through the door cleanly. The last room of Escape, a couple things to note here, which I'm sure 99% of people know, especially if you speedrun this game, is just hold right out of the doorway. You're going to skip that first text. And what I like to do is before I hit the right wall, I have A held. And what that's going to do is that's going to get you ready for the lever pull on the bottom. So a couple things with that lever pull. If you're holding A beforehand, once you get a little bit close, maybe like I'd say a half a tile away or a tile away from the middle of the lever, with a cardinal down input, Link will snap to that lever and pull it down from where he's at. What I do is once I clear the bottom corner of that wall and I begin to move right, still make sure you're holding A, but I like to make sure that I am at the top of the wall. I feel like if I'm 1 pixel below or whatever the case may be, and I try to do this fast lever pull, sometimes I hit down and he just doesn't hit it or whatever the case may be. I have a lot more consistency when I am aligned with the top of the wall. But the visual cue that I use is right when the front of Link's hair is lined up with the left part of the lever handle. That is your cue to let go of the right input and just hit down. If you do that at that visual cue, of course, and after, but that's the earliest cue. If you just let go of that right input and you hit down, Link's going to snap right to that lever and pull it down for you. Once you got the lever pulled down, depending on where the rats are, I like to hold left and then down pump all the way to the door, and of course have a clean door exit. Coming out of Escape, there is a few things that can happen. You can either get rat frames or priest frames, which they actually call incroy frames. Getting rat frames, what happens here is coming out of the last room of Escape into the sanctuary here, you can get blocked by a rat in the doorway, and if you actually slash the rat while you transition through the doorway, you get rat frames. And what that looks like is Link is actually in a pushing animation as he emerges through the door, which actually speeds up the text about 70 frames on average. But to remember with that, you do lose the frames in the room before in escape by getting hit and slashing the rat as you go through the door. So it does save 70 frames here, but you do have to account for the lost frames that you get while slashing the rat through the door transition. Priest frames or inquiry frames, what that is it actually speeds up the text, which also saves you about 70 frames on average. And in order to get the inquiry frames, you have to transition the screen from escape while you're beeping. So when you have one heart left, you can get those inquiry frames. But one thing to note, if you have both, it's just one or the other. It's just going to save you 70 frames in the long run. So once you get through the door here, you're going to have the priest text, which you want to mash with all the face buttons. And he is going to give you a choice at the end here. So one thing with that, I know I had talked about earlier about canceling the last text boxes with LNR. You actually cannot cancel a final text box with LNR if it ends in a choice. So here you want to, when you get to the end of mashing, I just mash A while I hold down, because you can swipe your sword, you can map, and you can use whatever's in your item or your boomerang. So I just mash A and then hold down to get ready to move. One thing you do want to note here is if you are going to hold down while you're mashing on the last text box, make sure you hold down before the last text box pops up. You definitely do not want to pick this second choice. There is a new stair movement that I do talk about a little bit in my basic movement and minor glitches tutorial that does go over some of the new stair tech, which you can actually cancel your movement coming off of the sanctuary stairs with a quick left or right cardinal movement input as you go down the rest of the stairs, which does speed up your movement a little bit. I don't do it in the video here, but I just wanted to make sure that I talk about it. But just make sure that you exit cleanly. Coming out of the sanctuary, you want to just hold down until you clear the first part of the stone gate and align yourself with an angle down right input right to the right side of the bushes. This will get you ready to transition to a right input a little bit better, plus it gets you closer to where you need to go anyway. Once you get past the stone wall that surrounds sanctuary, you want to go into an angle down right input, and you actually want to align Link's shadow with the second rock in the middle of the pathway. As you look to the right there, you see the top rock, and there's a rock a little bit below to the left of there. It gets you down a little bit further for preparation of the next screen, but you definitely do not want Link's shadow to be lower than that rock. If you line up Link's shadow and it goes below that rock, you can actually aggro the guard on the next screen because you're too low. So just make sure you line up the bottom of Link's shadow with either, like, I would say probably the middle of that rock below, and then just hold right and transition the screen. As you transition the screen to the right, you're probably going to run into the outline of the cemetery here just on the corner in front of you. If you do a little nudge against it, it's not a huge time loss. That's actually more preferred than a anti-pump, which is basically just moving Link down as he's moving right or down because he has slower movement. But it's okay just to do a little bit nudge there, but continue to hold right. You shouldn't aggro the guard just because you transition the screen a little higher than normal, but just continue to hold right until you transition to the next screen. Here you want to go into an angle upright input and just put Link just above the top of the tree line, or align yourself with it. I like to transition here because I can see exactly where I need to align myself with the tree. You can transition to an angle upright input on the prior screen before the transition, but it's not a big difference. I just like to do it on this screen because I have something I can visually see to align myself with. After you align with the top of the tree line there, as you pass it, just go into an angle down right input all the way until you get to the next screen. Continue to hold angle down right until you get to the part of the wall there that slopes downward. At that point, you just want to hold down until you get to the bottom of the bridge. Once you get to the bottom of the bridge, just go into an angle down right input and just hold that direction until you clear the bridge. Once you clear the bridge, just hold down until you get yourself to the middle of the grass pathway. You should be able to see where the opening is on the lower left side, but you want to line yourself up in the middle of that pathway. Once you feel that you're in the middle of the pathway, just go into an angle down left input and just hold that all the way through until you get to the corner of the mountain on the right side, and then just transition the screen downward. From here, just hold down until the mountain slopes to the right. and go into an angle down right input to align yourself right in between the pathway of the last two big boulders or big rocks there. One thing to note, the Octoroks can get into your way. You can slash them. That will actually advance the prize packs for additional rupees. You can boom them if you want to, or rocks can get in your way, which I do show an RNG where you have to slow down for a rock. But just make sure you have good RNG reaction here. Continue down the pathway nice and cleanly. Don't nudge any of the rocks. If you do have a clear pathway, as soon as the last rock on the bottom right starts to slope downward to the right, just hold angle down right to get as far to the right of the screen transition as you can. Like I said before, I do show an additional RNG where you do have to stop and stall to wait for the rock to pass you. An Octorok can get in your way. Just do what you need to do to get past him, either sword him or boom him. And actually multiple Octoroks can get in your way. You just have to have quick RNG reaction. Here you just want to hold angle down right through the screen transition, all the way down through the right slope of the mountain, and then just go right into a right directional input to get to the next part. This screen actually has a few different movement techniques that you can do. Once you clear the straight part of the mountain there and it starts to slope up, you can actually just hold angle up right. And once you clear that slope, you can either hold up and air pump to the right to get to the screen transition, or you can just continue to hold angle up right from that first slope on your left until you are aligned with the right wall. The two different strategies here will be on the next screen transition on what you do. The first one, if you air pump, you will just have to air pump a little bit more to get to the middle. If you actually align yourself with the right mountain wall here, you're actually aligned perfectly with the staircase on the next screen. So optimally, of course, I do air pump to the right. It does speed up Link's movement a little bit. If you do choose to air pump to the right, just make sure you're directly in the center, just hitting that staircase above you. You can nudge, it will lose you a little bit of time. But the Octorok that's in the middle here, depending on where he's at, you can boom him, you can slash him. Of course, booming is going to be a little bit faster. Once you get to the stairs, make sure that you continue to hold up and double pump left and right all the way through. Once you're off the stairs, just continue to hold up and air pump to the right all the way until you get in between the pathway of the top right eagle statue. You can cut that pathway through instead of going up and around it. It is a little bit quicker. Just be aware of the Octorok that's in the middle of that pathway. He can shoot a rock. If you get through that pathway quick enough, Link's shield will just block it, so you don't have to worry most times. Once you're through the two statues, you may just need to hold angle up right for a few steps, and then just go right into holding up and air pumping to the right. Just be aware of the rock that the Octorok is shooting upward to make sure you get by it, or you stall as you're pumping to make sure it passes you first, and then you can pump by it. Once you get above the mountainside here, going toward the Armo statue and the Octorok can actually give you a lot of different RNGs here. He can come straight at you, he can stop in the middle of the statue and then go right again, or he can go up from the middle of the statue, which is probably the worst RNG you can get. But what you want to do, honestly, you can either boom him or slash him if he gets in your way before the Armo statue. But for the Armo statue, you want to make sure that you trigger him as early as possible. So stay low and just keep walking forward until you trigger him. And then you can just do cardinal movement inputs, straight up, straight right. And then you can look down and boom the Armo statue for the faster optimization of movement. After you pass the armor statue, just continue to hold angle down right all the way until you get to the space in the rail where you can jump off the ledge. Once you land from the ledge hop, you can just continue to hold up and air pump to the right, making sure that you're aligned with the stairs. And of course, the stairs are double-sided, so just make sure you hold up and you double pump left and right all the way up them. Once you get to the top of the stairs, just do a cardinal right input, and make sure that you stay on the bottom of the rail here. You want to make sure that you stay as low as possible for as long as possible, and the reason being is because there is a blue guard at the top of the next staircase that will spawn if you transition the screen too high. And of course you don't want to do that early, because then you won't be able to pass him as you're going up the stairs. So what you want to do here is continue right at the bottom of the rail, and once you typically get even with that Armo statue, then you want to start to make your way up with an angle right up input and get to the stairs. And then once you get to this set of stairs, of course, continue to hold up and double pump all the way to the top. If you waited to transition that screen, you're going to be able to skip this guard or skip booming him and wasting time. So once you get to the top of the stairs, you should be able to just do a right input and pass the guard. And then as you're moving further to the right, you want to hold diagonal upright and align yourself with the left part of the rail on the next set of stairs. This will give you a much smoother transition as you go up the stairs. And then of course, continue to hold up, double pump left and right as you go up the stairs, and then continue to do the same thing in the next set of stairs. Double pump left and right as you hold up all the way through the stairs and into the entrance. I do show another RNG for this screen, which is actually pretty long. The Eastern Overworld screen is pretty rough, but it's where the Octorok actually stops right around the middle of the Armo statue as you're about to go around him. If this happens, just do the same movement, cardinal movement up and around him, but this time instead of booming him, personally I would just sword poke him, and the reason being is because you don't know where that Octorok is going to go. He could go further right and just be totally out of your way, which is fine, but if he does go back left or stays in the middle of the Armo statue, you'll actually poke the Armo statue to get around him, and you'll actually kill the Octorok that's there too. So the sword poke is a little bit of a safer movement, but it does lose a little bit of time versus booming the Armo statue. The first room of Eastern Palace is pretty simple. Just stay straight. You're able to lift up the pot from the middle of the pathway. And this is actually the first time that we've been able to lift the pot and see the visual cue that we need. And I know a lot of runners tend to have issues when throwing pots where you hit the A button to throw the pot and you're walking with it still and you're like, please just throw the pot. Hello? A good visual cue for this is when you lift the pot, you see sweat come off of Link's head on the left and the right side. Once you see that sweat disperse, that is your cue to throw the pot as early as you can. The next screen, you can actually do a few different strategies. Honestly, you can go with the safe strat, which is just around the enemies here, but there is a faster strat, which I think is right around like 2 to 4 frames at best, but you can just go a little bit left to the switch or air pump to the left, and then you can boom the enemy on the far left there and try to stay as straight as possible and then right air pump into the doorway. And the next strategy I show is probably what most people go for, is just to angle up left movements at the switch there and then just walk slightly around the left enemy there. You can stay relatively close to him, but once you get past him, just hold angle up right and then have a clean door entry. This screen can be a little bit difficult if you're trying to do it optimally, but what you want to do is just leap off the ledge and then hold angle up right to get past the first corner. And more times than not, the first cannonball is on the left side, unfortunately, but the first RNG I show you here is a clear pathway where all the cannonballs are on the right side. You can pump left against the pillars there in the pathway as you hold up to maximize your movement. Once you get around the corner, just make sure it's clean, and then you can just hold left and then air pump up a few times to align yourself with the staircase. After you get off the staircase, just hold angle up right until you're aligned with the top of the wall, and then you want to snap into the doorway. Just cardinal inputs, straight right, straight up, nice clean door entry. All right, the next RNG that's shown here for the cannonball room is pretty typical in a run, where you have to go left and right to avoid the cannonballs. One thing I will note here, when you do that, try to get some pumps in against those pillars if you can. Also, when avoiding the cannonballs by going left and right, you actually don't have to go all the way to the wall. You can cut it a few pixels just so you're not wasting movement. It does take a little bit of practice on not getting hit by the cannonballs if you're not perfectly aligned with the left or the right wall. But optimally, you can just pump left and right to avoid those cannonballs if you have to do that much movement within the room because the RNG is bad. Here, you just want to get through the door and hold up while you air pump to the left all the way to the wall. Once you're aligned with the left part of the wall, just continue to pump left to maximize your movement. Have a nice clean corner around there, and then continue to hold left and pump up until you get to the rail, and then just continue to pump up as much as you can. Once you clear the rail, you can hold angle up left, and then depending on the situation you're in for the two pots here, what you want to do is you want to pick up the top pot and hit the switch, align yourself with the left part of the wall, and then snap into the doorway. By any chance in the overworld or an escape you lost a heart, the bottom pot here is what you want to pick up to regain that health. Hit the switch and then just go to the right, up and around that pot that you haven't picked up, and then have yourself a nice clean doorway. This room has quite a few RNGs that you need to make sure that you're aware of. Just hold angle down left on this doorway. Some people like to just hold left until they bump into the rail and then go down from there. You are losing a little bit of time doing that. If you can react quickly to the Stelphos RNG, you shouldn't have any issues just holding angle down left out of the door. Now, the few RNGs that you're going to get out of this room is, of course, the first one is a nice clear pathway. The first Stelphos goes right, and the second Stelphos does not get in your way. So if you do have a clear pathway, you can just continue to hold left and air pump down all the way to the rail, and then clearing that corner, aligning yourself with the left wall, and then having nice clean door movement. The next RNG here, I've seen a lot of runners do this differently. It is losing them quite a bit of frames, but if the first Stelphos doesn't get in your way, but the second one continues to move right, the best movement that you can do is just to go down and around him on the left side. A lot of runners will swipe their sword to make him jump out of the way. You don't have to do that. You can just go down and around him and then start air pumping down as you're holding left and then all the way to the doorway. The next RNG, you have a clear pathway past the first Stelphos, but the second Stelphos goes down. In that instance, it is better to swipe your sword and make him jump out of the way, and then just continue to hold left and down pump against the rail as you make your way to the door. The next RNG shows the first Stelphos actually getting in your way as he moves up. At that point, you definitely want to slash, make him jump out of the way. And if the second Stelphos doesn't get in your way, it's the same as before. Clear pathway, air pump down as you're holding left and make your way to the door. The last RNG shown here is probably the toughest or the worst RNG the Stelphos can give you, is where out of that doorway, the first Stelphos goes up, he gets in your way, you have to slash your sword, and the second Stelphos just goes straight right and beelines it to you, which makes it pretty tough because there's not a lot you can do. But what you can do is when you slash that first Stelphos to make him jump out of the way, just continue to hold your sword and then hold left, and either the second Stelphos will jump out of your way immediately, or you'll just poke him and then he'll jump out of your way, which will give you a clear pathway to the bottom to pump down as you hold left and make your way to the doorway. So coming into the Stelphos room, there are a few points that you want to make sure that you don't walk into because it can spawn extra Stelphos. There's a total of 4